Hey everyone, it's Nicole again, and I'm here to do my March reading wrap-up. In the month of March, I read 9 books, and I DNF'd 2. I read a lot of books from the library, particularly audiobooks, so I don't have too many with me. I've got just a stack of 5 here. And I also finished like a bunch of books on the 1st of April, but we'll just have to wait and talk about them in April, even though I'm filming this like a couple days into April, but it's alright. So the first book that I read this month was Lincoln and the Bardo by George Saunders. I listened to this on audiobook because I'd heard a lot of people talk about the audiobook. This is like an oral history, so it kind of made sense to listen to it in audiobook, although it was a little bit confusing. This is basically about Lincoln's son who dies when he's like a child, and then it's just about all these like ghosts in this cemetery, and I really liked it. Apparently, I've realized, even though like I get really freaked out by death and dying, as we all do, I really love reading about the afterlife and like people trapped in the afterlife, like ghosts, or just like what the afterlife is imagined to be. So I don't know what that means, but yeah, I think I've realized that ghosts are like my favorite supernatural creatures. This is all about ghosts, and it was super cool. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It was a little confusing because I don't know if you can see, but so like there'll be a line and then it'll say who spoke it. But in the audiobook, there's just a different narrator for every person. So it kind of took me a little bit to figure out who everyone was and who was speaking. But once I got that down, I was really into it. It's a very sad book, obviously, but it's a pretty short one. I mean, it's like 300 and something pages, but since it's written that way, it goes by pretty quickly, because most of the pages don't have very much text on it. Sorry, my voice sounds weird. Getting over a cold, because I can't seem to not get sick every time I go on an airplane. Alright, the next thing that I read was Dededede Demons, Dededede Destruction, Volume 2 by Inio Asano. So I think I read the first one last month, or the month before or something. So this follows Tokyo and a group of high school students there. This like alien spaceship has been like hovering over Tokyo for a couple of years, and sometimes they'll send out little alien spaceships to investigate. But no one's really seen these aliens, and it's unclear if they're a threat or not. I mean they do sometimes kill people, but like maybe it's just an accident, and like the humans are also killing their people. But yeah, so it's kind of a combination of like a sci-fi like alien invasion story and also just like a slice of life about these high schoolers. So I quite enjoyed the second one. I think there's about 4 or 5 out, so I'm hoping to pick up the next one soon. Alright, and then I listened to the audiobook of Sawkill Girls by Legrand, and I have no idea why, but I thought the plot of this was something completely different. Just like, I heard people describe it, and I heard a completely different thing. So I heard people describing it as about these 3 girls on an island, and then there's a monster that they're hunting. And so in my head, I was like, there's an island, there's only 3 girls, and a monster. And I thought it was going to be more like apocalyptic. But it's like a fully running island with like schools and shops and lots of other people. So that was my bad for not really knowing what the plot was. I was like very confused when there was all these other people on the island. But yeah, that is what the book is about. And I liked it. The first half was like pretty good, kind of setting everything up, but there was just some like reveals that I'm just like really tired of reading about. I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything for it. But yeah, I just wasn't really into the review. Yeah, I just feel like the ending didn't really, like, stick it for me. And, yeah. But I think part of that was just, like, I thought it was just gonna be 3 girls on an island with a monster, and, like, that sounded cooler. So that was just my bad. And then I read Radiance by Cathrynne and Valente. I think this is the last Valente that I own that I hadn't read yet. There's a couple of other her books that I haven't read but I don't own. But I wanted to read this one before I bought any more. But this is a very interesting book. It's like an alternative history sci-fi book about like Hollywood in the 20s, but all the other planets are like people live on them. But it's still like that kind of 20s style, and like it's about people making movies. It's about this girl whose father was like a famous director, and she makes her own movies, and then she is filming one. She makes kind of like documentary sort of movies. She was filming one, and then she disappeared. But it's told in a bunch of different formats. So there'll be like scripts, newspaper clippings, and it kind of goes back and forth between the past and the present. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Gave it 5 stars. It's a very strange book to recommend and describe, but if you're all interested, I would say pick it up and try it out for yourself, because it's not for everyone. Alright, I'm back. I have a cough drop, so sorry if that's making sounds in my mouth, and some water. Hopefully it won't be coughing through all of these book reviews, because that'll take me so long to film. So what were we talking about? I had just finished talking about Radiance. Okay, and then I DNF'd 2 audiobooks. So I've been using audiobooks to get through kind of newer releases that I'm kind of interested but don't particularly want to buy. And I really like listening to shorter books on audiobook, like especially like YA. I feel like that works. I've also found a couple of audiobook narrators that I like super like, particularly Julia Wohlleben. I just want to listen to her all the time. So, but yeah, I've been using it to DNF books as well, so just try them out and then see if I want to keep reading. So I started listening to Reign of the Fallen by Sarah Glenn Marsh, and this is a YA fantasy book that has like a queer lady, so that was like 100% why I was interested in it. It's about this world where when somebody dies, you go and like resurrect their body, and so people kind of just live forever. And because of that, like nothing really changes in the world. Everything kind of stays how it is. The king is always the king. And then sometimes things go wrong and then like monsters are created. It kind of reminds me of Dragon Age. I feel like a lot of YA fantasy books remind me of Dragon Age. Probably because they played Dragon Age. Yeah, this is about one girl named Odessa, and she's one of the necromancers to the king. But yeah, I know that I only got like 25% of the way through, and I was like really bored. And she was like she was dating this guy at the beginning of the book. But like obviously like I think they were gonna break up, and then she was gonna date this other person. But he was so boring. And I was like, I don't want to read about him. He's so boring. And the plot was just taking so long to get set up. And I could just kind of see where it was going to go, just judging. I like read a little bit of the reviews, and if I wasn't liking it 25% of the way through, it didn't seem like I was going to like it any after. So yeah, if you have any queer fantasy books that are more fast-paced and interesting. I do know this one deals with addiction later in. And that sounded interesting because I've never read a YA book that's dealt with addiction, I don't think. So that's what kind of kept me reading, but I don't know. I could just see where I was going and I wasn't particularly interested in it, but yeah. I also started listening to Spellbook of the Lost and Found by Moira Fowley-Doyle, which I had gotten from the library like last year, and then read a couple of chapters and then had to return it. And I think I even got the audiobook like a couple months ago as well and tried to read it again. And then I got the audiobook now, and I just like really couldn't get into it, which I'm so sad about. This is an Irish story about a group of like teen girls, and like things are going missing, and they're trying to figure out what's happening, and also like everyone's gay. So like it sounds great, but I just like really was bored. I think I made it like the same, like 25% of the way through. And there was also just like so many characters, and there's like 3 different timelines happening, or there's like 2 timelines and like 3 sets of people, and all their names are like flower names, and or like herbs or whatever. And it was so hard to keep track of everyone. I kept listening because the audiobook has like really awesome like Irish accents, and that was fun. I feel like that kept my engagement a little more than reading the physical book. But in the end, I just like was kind of bored by it, so that's why I DNF'd it. But yeah, if anyone has not boring, witchy, queer lady books, please let me know. I know there's a couple of them out there, but if you recommend any, let me know. Okay, a couple more library books, and then I'll get to the ones I actually own. I know I need to read the books I own that are behind me, but I just keep getting library books. Okay, so I read Famous in a Small Town by Emma Mills. Last year, I can't remember when, but I read like all of Emma Mills's books in the span of like a week. And it was like the best week of my life because her books are so nice. They're like a nice cup of tea. They're just like really cozy, cute, YA contemporary. And like that's not a genre I read very often, but hers are just so well done, and they're so funny, and they're such like great like friendship groups, and the dynamics between like the main character and her family are always so good. So I was super excited to see she had another one out. This one is about this girl who's in marching band, and she's trying to raise money to get her marching band to go to the Rose Bowl. And there was this like kind of famous country singer who's from her small town, who like went on basically like a American Idol, like a country sort of version of that. And so she's hoping to get her to come back to the town to help raise money. The only thing is she doesn't want to come, like she's stated like she doesn't want to return to the town. So it's about that. And there's also like a new boy in town who she's interested in. And like Emma Mills and I have the same taste in guys, like angsty sad boys. And soft, very soft. Just, that's what I want to read about if I'm reading like a contemporary YA book. But anyways, this one was good. It's not my favorite of hers. I feel like the family part wasn't as strong as it normally is, but she also did that for a reason, which you find out towards the end. There's kind of a reveal. Then you kind of know something's up, but then you find out, and that made me cry so hard on the train. It was kind of embarrassing, just sobbing on the train. But yeah, she did that for a reason. But that's kind of the thing that I love about her books, like that the main character always has such a close relationship with her family members, and it's like super funny. And that was there a little bit, but it was mostly just her parents doing crossword puzzles, which was cute. But yeah, the friendship group was great. Queer ladies in there, good. It was super funny, and the romance was super cute. So yeah, I definitely recommend that if you want to just be in a good mood. I think we could all use a good mood right now. And then I listened to another audiobook. I listened to so many audiobooks. I am in a new space at my work. So I had like a little office before, and now I'm in this like kind of big room, which is good because that's where all the stuff that I work with is, but it's very like secluded. And so I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks because I feel like I will go crazy if I don't, because I have to keep the door shut, and I don't get to talk to people as much now. So yeah, you're probably gonna hear me talking about a lot of audiobooks in the next couple of months. Okay, so I listened to Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart, which she also wrote, like, We Were Liars, but this one, mostly I'm intrigued by the cover. It looked cool, and I wanted to try it out. And I really, really liked this book. I'm, like, still thinking about it now. And I read it, like, in the middle of March, so, like, almost a month ago. This is about this girl, I don't know how to describe this book. It's told backwards, that's one thing I'll say. So it starts at, like, chapter 19, goes down to chapter 1, and then it's chapter 20. And I had never really read a book that was narrated that way, and I was really into it. I feel like she did a really good job. But basically it's about this young girl who is, I really, like, the description of this is so vague. But it's about this girl who's very good at disguising herself, and she befriends this other girl. And I think that's all I want to say. Like, I mean, because it starts at chapter 19, you kind of know some things, but I really didn't know anything about it, except that it was, like, a mystery. It's kind of very similar to another book, but I don't want to name that book. I mean, you can find it out. But I feel like that really gives a lot away, which is fine. Sorry this is, like, very confusing, but I feel like it's such a good book to just go into and read, and the narrator was so good on this one. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Rebecca Solser or something. But she was so good. She did, like, really good accents, and I've just been listening to, like, all of her audiobooks now because I really like her voice. And then, now we're getting into my brief stint into the Buzzword Readathon, which I filmed a TBR for, but I didn't end up vlogging, which is fine because the middle of my week, things kind of went haywire, and I didn't end up reading for the rest of the week. Just, like, personal life things. First thing that I read for that was Who is Vera Kelly by Rosalie Knecht. And this is about this girl who, I think it's in the 60s, and she's kind of, like, trying to blend in the, like, underground gay scene in Greenwich Village, New York. And she gets approached by this guy to, like, work for the CIA, and they want her to go to Argentina and kind of infiltrate this group of student activists and, like, wiretap some, like, important government people. And honestly, I just found this so boring, which, like, that sounds like a very exciting plot, right? First of all, the underground gay Greenwich Village scene, which is what I was more interested in, because I don't like the CIA and I don't want to read about them. That part, like, was so small, and we didn't really get to read about that at all, which is what I was more interested in. And yeah, it was just, something about it was just so boring. I don't know. Like, I finished it because it was pretty short, and I was reading it for a readathon, and I was listening to an audiobook, so I could just, like, kind of do my work, put it on double speed. But yeah, I just found it really boring, and I was really sad about that. I feel like all of the, like, cool gay lady books that I tried to read this month, I was just really bored by. So please give me recommendations, because I need more. What else? We're nearing the end now. Oh, so the next thing that I read was also for the Buzzword Readathon, and that was The Hidden Life of Trees, What They Feel, How They Communicate, Discoveries from a Secret World by Peter Wohlleben. And this is exactly what it says. It's about trees and how they communicate, and it was super cool at first, because I had no knowledge about any of this, but I feel like it was organized in a very weird way. It wasn't really organized at all. Like, the chapters are all pretty short, but they didn't flow very well. It would just, like, suddenly jump to a different topic. And I almost wish that there had been longer chapters, and then within those chapters would be, like, sections that connected together. I read another nonfiction book, like, this month, April, and I feel like it had the same problem. I don't know. I think I'm just really picky about my nonfiction. I want it to be super organized and flow very well. But besides that, like, kind of weird flow, I did find it really interesting, and I kept telling everyone around me cool tree facts that I was learning. So, I think he has a couple other ones out now about other topics about nature. I also like how you just, like, would casually mention climate change, because it's, like, a real thing, and we don't need to make it a big... I mean, we need to make a big deal about it, and, like, fix it. But he was like, yes, climate change. It's happening. I see it in the trees. So I liked that, how he was very upfront about that. And this really just made me want to go, like, take a walk in a forest. So hopefully I can go do that soon. There's a lot of forests around me. I'm in California. Alright. I think we're almost to the end. Yes. I finished one book on, like, April 1st, and I really want to talk about it. But I think I'm just going to make a review for it. It's The Secret History. Because I had like 50 pages left that I read like April 1st on the airplane home. But yeah, I think I'm going to talk about that next month. But I think I am going to film a review like this weekend because I've got a lot of things to say about it. Spoiler, I liked it a lot. Alright. So the last thing that I read was My Brother's Husband by Gengoroh Tagame. This is volume 1. I think there's only 2 volumes. I've been trying to get into manga. I used to read it a lot as a kid, but it's kind of a very expensive thing to be into because they're all like $10. I mean, this one's a hardcover, so it was like $25. I never buy $25 books. But I'd heard a lot of people talking about this. It's about this guy who's like a single dad of this young girl, and he had a twin brother who like kind of came out to him and then ended up moving to Canada and married this guy. And the brother has died, which you know early on. And this guy, Mike, has come to visit and kind of see what his like widower? His widow, I think it's just called a widow. To see what his widow's life was like in Japan. And it was so cool to see the main guy, what's his name? Yaichi? Like, he clearly had some homophobic ideas, but they were much more, like, common things. Like, he was just like, oh, like, I don't get it, like, how does it work? He thought it was, like, gross, but he wasn't, like, outright, like, harming anyone. It was more of, like, the type of homophobia you would see in your own family, and then he, like, had to deal with these feelings, like, meeting his, like, twin brother's husband. And also, like, his daughter was so okay with it all. She was, like, there was one point where she asked, like, she said, oh, I think that's weird. Like, the guy Mike says that, like, guys can get married to each other in other countries. And she said, oh, I think that's weird. And, like, the dad thinks, like, oh, yeah. He's, like, there's a thought bubble. He's, like, yeah, that's weird that guys can get married. She's, like, oh, I think it's weird that guys can get married in some countries and not in other countries. And he's, like, oh, I guess I never thought about it that way. So, yeah, he was just kind of dealing with his own, like, internalized thoughts and combating them. And just, like, becoming a really strong ally. And it was, like, so nice to see. Like, I feel like I haven't read that many books about people, like, becoming good allies. It's usually they're either, like, horrible or they're, like, a good ally already. And it was cool to see that, that change in him. I could see this being, like, kind of upsetting to read for some people if you've dealt with any, like, homophobic relatives. But, I mean, it does have, like, a good ending, and, like, he does change, but it could be kind of painful to read about and, like, open up some things, so. I have very generally accepting relatives. I don't talk to the other ones. But yeah, definitely recommend this one. I'm gonna get the second volume soon. They're just, again, expensive, $25. So yeah, those are the 9 books that I read in the month of March. Sorry if this is, like, all over the place because I've just been coughing the whole time. And it's so annoying, and I'm gonna hate myself having to edit this. But anyways, let me know what you read in the month of March. I feel like I had a pretty good reading month, and April is looking to be like an even better reading month. I think I've already read like 5 books in 5 days. Like, I don't know what's going on. Yesterday I finished 3 books in 1 day. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing what I get read this month. But yeah, let me know what you read, if you read any of these books, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video. Bye!